Imagine if 5,000 of your closest friends were coming over for dinner on short notice, and you rush to the refrigerator and you open it up and you've got a can of easy cheese spread and a few crackers. And you're thinking, how far can I stretch this? Not too far, probably. Today on Tasting the Bible, we're going to hear a story in which Jesus and his disciples are faced with a very similar conundrum. The scene couldn't be even more vivid. Jesus and his disciples, weary from all the work they're doing, go out into a deserted place. But when they get there, they find the crowds have followed them, and Jesus, being who he was moved towards them. The scriptures say that kind of he had a gut reaction towards them, and it was compassion. He felt compassion for them, so he continued to teach them and to comfort them. And when the day got on, we know the story. The day went on, and Jesus' disciples said, "Hey, these people got to eat. And we can't send them out to the countryside to get food." And so Jesus says, "All right, you feed them." And they're like, "What?" Jesus says, "Okay, listen. How many fish do you have? How many loaves?" And they came back and they said, "Well, we got 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish." Jesus said, "Let me take care of this." So they sit everybody down, and Jesus divides the food up, and they all had enough. I remember when I was a teenager and the minister of our church read this story and was preaching on it. And the most important thing that he said about this text was, you know what, the way Jesus lived in the world is that he taught other people to be good to others. And so what's really important about this story is that Jesus taught people to share. So I'm sure as soon as he started sharing what he had, everybody said, well, if he could share, then I could share. And they started bringing out, look, I've got 5 loaves, I've got some fish over here. And everybody started coming out with all these things that they had forgotten that they brought with them. Or they'd maybe they've been hoarding a little bit. It says, all these people, if I start eating now, somebody will say, what, you didn't bring any popcorn for me? But this minister said, that's the important thing about this story. And that's the way I first heard it and understood it. Is that the way Jesus was in the world is that he taught other people to share. And so the theme for our day is sharing is caring. But I think there's something more about the story. I think there's something more going on here, or otherwise the church wouldn't have remembered the stories the way it does. It wouldn't have said something significant happened here. The scriptures, if Jesus was just about teaching people to share, the scriptures would have remembered it that way. They would have said, Jesus showed by example how to be, and the people said, sharing's a good idea. If we all share, we're all going to have enough. My sense is that something else is going on here. And I don't know what it is. It's a mystery. It's something bigger than myself. And I think that's what this story points to, is that God cares and provides enough in such a miraculous way that God satisfies our needs. And that Jesus is in the midst of all of this, in the heart of the story. So, I don't know what it is. It is a bit of a mystery, but we want to go with sharing is caring. And we want to say God is the first sharer, one who gives of himself. God gives of himself to sustain our needs. Another small part of the story is, I know you've been asking, what kind of fish did those people actually eat? I know it's a burning question on all of your minds. So I did a little research and I found out in the Sea of Galilee, the Sea of Galilee is a freshwater lake. It's a big, big lake. We call it a sea, but it's a big lake. It's about the size of Lake Tahoe between Nevada and California, if you've ever been there. And first thing you thought, just like, wait, I always imagined the Sea of Galilee was bigger. If you stand on one side of if you're at Tahoe, you stand on one side, you can see the other side. The same is true about the Sea of Galilee. You can see to the other side. But in Jesus' day, this lake was full of fish. And the most populous fish there was the tilapia. And so that's today what we are going to prepare, a fish called the fish tilapia. And if you go to the Sea of Galilee today, you can take a boat ride, you can learn the stories of Jesus, and you can also eat fish. And they usually call it St. Peter's fish, and you get it with some French fries. Today, when we told you in our first episode that there are no potatoes in this series because in Jesus' day, there were no potatoes in that part of the world, only over there in the New World. So no potatoes, no tomatoes, but we're going to supply you also with today a recipe for a cucumber salad. And all those ingredients that we put in that salad would have been around the area in which Jesus lived, around the Sea of Galilee. And the story also is about loaves and fish. We're going to use some of the loaves we have from our first episode. Go back to that episode 1, where we make some very simple unleavened loaves. Today we're focusing on the fish and a cucumber salad. Here are the ingredients we need for our St. Peter's fish, our tilapia. Now, I went to my local grocery store, and just pure happenstance, I went up to the butcher counter and I said, I need whole tilapia. And he says, look down. And there they were. God provided the whole tilapia. But you can use other fish if you'd like. You don't have to use a whole fish, but that's what we're using today, whole tilapia. So we did with 2 whole tilapia today, some olive oil, the juice from 1 lemon, a couple of cloves of garlic minced, and some salt and black pepper. Now, in recipes in the Middle East today, you might find paprika as part of this recipe. Paprika comes from a little peppercorn a pepper that comes from Mexico and makes its way to Europe. But that's after 1500, so Jesus never would have eaten paprika. And so the spices we have today are salt and pepper, reminding that pepper comes from South India. Here's what we need to do to prepare our fish. Taking the whole fish, we score it with a knife on a diagonal, one way and then the other way, turning it over and doing the same thing, diagonal scoring. And then we mix together the olive oil, the lemon juice, the garlic, the salt and pepper in a small glass bowl. As you're mixing that all together, and then you just smear it all over the fish. I used my hands to do it, just to smear that into those diagonal cuts we've made, and just saturate that fish with our olive oil, lemon juice, garlic, salt, and pepper mix. Then simply on a grilling baking dish, we put it into the oven, set at 400 degrees or 420 degrees, and on that grilling pan into the oven, and about 10 minutes on each side, watching carefully so that it doesn't burn. If you're using the broiler, it'd probably be a less time, but we used like as if we were baking a fish, but on a grilling pan, and it really was 10 minutes on each side, about 400 degrees, maybe 410. And then as we finish that, just take that out of the oven, and it's ready to eat as it is. So normally this dish would have been with French fries, but we've just said no potatoes. So we're making a cucumber salad. I bet you, if I asked you, where do cucumbers show up in the Bible? You might have to scratch your head for a little bit. You may not know, but if you know your Bible well enough, you might say, doesn't Jonah, sitting outside of Nineveh, out under the shade of a gourd tree, yeah, that's where cucumbers show up. It's a gourd tree or a cucumber tree. We're not sure exactly what it is, but that's the place that cucumbers show up. So here we go, our cucumber salad today. And the ingredient we left out of this, you might find common, is tomatoes. Tomatoes are also from Mexico. So we're leaving those out for our recipe today. Let's take 2 cups of diced cucumber, a 1/4 cup of red onion, diced, a 1/4 cup of finely chopped mint, a 1/4 cup finely chopped parsley, 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice, 1 tablespoon white vinegar or red wine vinegar, 1 to 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, and salt to taste. Steps are easy. Just mix all of those ingredients together. Season with salt further to taste and refrigerate until you're ready to serve. Now, thinking again about the disciples and Jesus and all those 5,000 people, probably more, out there in a deserted place, sharing a meal together. The thing is, think about the things that they brought, they might have had with them, or the things they were sharing. A loaf of bread was something that they could have carried with them and would have traveled well. But fresh fish out in the desert, not sure about that. How far would your fish would have been traveled? So if it wasn't fresh, maybe they had salted it. Saying, how do you preserve a fish to carry with you out on a long journey? Well, luckily today we have refrigeration and we have our fish all ready and prepared, and we're going to taste this fish. But thinking about that, we're so lucky today that we have ways of preserving our food and eating it somewhat fresh. So as we seek to taste the Bible, we enter a story in the Gospel of Mark, in the 6th chapter, beginning with the 30th verse. The apostles gathered around Jesus and told him all that they had done and taught. And he said to them, "Come away to a deserted place all by yourselves and rest a while." For many were coming and going, and they had no leisure even to eat. And they went away in the boat to a deserted place by themselves. Now many saw them going and recognized them, and they hurried there on foot from all the towns and arrived ahead of them. As he went ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he had compassion for them, because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And he began to teach them many things. When it grew late, his disciples came to him and said, "This is a deserted place, and the hour is now very late. Send them away so that they may go into the surrounding country and villages and buy something for themselves to eat." But Jesus answered them, "You give them something to eat." They said to him, "Are we to go and buy 200 denarii worth of bread and give it to them to eat?" And Jesus said to them, "How many loaves do you have? Go and see." When they went and found out, they said, 5 and 2 fish. And Jesus ordered them to get all the people to sit down in groups on the green grass. So they sat down in groups of hundreds and of 50s. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, Jesus looked up to heaven and blessed and broke the loaves and gave them to his disciples to set before the people. And he divided the 2 fish among them, and all ate and were filled. And they took up 12 baskets full of broken pieces of the fish. Those who had eaten the loaves numbered 5,000 men. We're going to taste our fish with our special guest coming up, Miss Hillary Makowski, our Director of Children's Ministries here at Pinnacle Presbyterian Church. And we're going to enjoy the freshness and the tanginess of a cucumber salad. Now we come back to that point where we get to taste the food that we've been preparing. The fish has been in the oven. Gosh, it's a nice rich aroma. It's not too strong, which is really nice. You know, sometimes when you cook fish, just the whole house smells like it. But our tilapia today is very mild, so we're good with that. And so we brought back today a little bit of flatbread from a previous episode, and of course our cucumber salad. And our special guest for our episode right now is Ms. Hillary Makowski. Welcome, Hillary.
Thank you, Mike. Hi, everybody.
And Hillary is our Director of Children and Family Ministries here at Pinnacle Presbyterian Church. And I'm so excited that you came and wanted to try our fish.
Oh, it smells so good in here. I wish all of you could be here with us today, but it smells. I hope that you've made this at your home as well, because it smells so good. I've never smelled anything like this in the chapel before.
Now, Miss Hillary works with the children, and I want to ask you, Miss Hillary, do you think that the kids that you work with, how willing would they be able to eat a fish whole like this?
Well, For my family in particular, we've never served anything like this at our house. But I would think that the students at Pinnacle, especially sitting with you, I think they'd be willing to give it a try. Maybe not for their parents, but probably with Pastor Mike.
Right. And so, Miss Hillary, this is, like we've talked in this episode, that this is a fish that lives in the Sea of Galilee. And so part of this story is we heard all about the dividing of the fish and the loaves, and everybody had enough. And so our theme of Ben is sharing is caring. So I am going to share this with you. I'm going to help serve a little bit of cucumber salad here, and
I am so excited.
A little bit of bread and some fish. So
this cucumber salad is gorgeous. The red onion looks so beautiful. I can't wait to taste it.
Now, all of these ingredients would have been ingredients that existed.
Thank you.
Where Jesus would have lived.
Wow. It's delicious. Crisp on the outside, moist, not fishy like you said. It's delicious.
Buying this in the store whole, I remember my own memories as a child looking at a whole fish and just being so grossed out by it. But this is actually really delicious, and that's one of the things too, things I learned to eat as an adult that I wouldn't have eaten as a kid.
Right.
Uh-huh. So how about a little bit of cucumber salad? You got it going, okay?
Yes, I'm ready. Delicious. Ooh, there's mint.
So things that
so good, Mike.
grew
Thank
all
you so
around
much.
Jesus. We had, mint and rosemary and just lots of different herbs from the field, and to me it's very fresh.
Very fresh. Yes, very crispy, very fresh. So many flavors in there. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing this with me today.
How do you think that tasting something like this helps you to know a little bit more about Jesus?
Well, I think it feels kind of like we're back in those times, right? Eating from the ocean, from the sea, and eating from the fields. It feels healthy, it feels natural, and feels good. Feels like Lent.
Yes. And so our theme here has been sharing is caring. Would you share this meal with somebody else?
I definitely would. My friend Kelly, she loves fish, and I think she would love to try some of this. Yes, I would love to share it.
We hope that you share this meal with friends and family and experience the way that Jesus would have eaten, and open your heart and mind and all of your senses to the world of Jesus, especially through food. Thank you for being with us, and join us for another episode of Tasting the Bible.